through what Allah gave him that position, through this Mubarak deen of Allah Ta'ala. Umar radiallahu anhu, his auntie, when he was a young boy, he would go out to graze the goats or the sheep, and when he would come back, he would lose some of the animals. And his maternal aunt used to say, "Oh Umar, what will become of you? You can't even look after these few animals." But brothers, when Iman came in the heart, what Allah made them? Allah, the Nabi of Allah is saying something like this, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, if a Nabi came after me, it would have been Umar. So many places in Quran Kareem, what Umar said, Allah Ta'ala revealed ayat of Quran on it. Praying Salat at Muqam Ibrahim, the covering of the mothers of the Ummah, not reading the janazah for kuffar and hypocrites. And Allahu Akbar, on one occasion, the Nabi of Allah, he sees a beautiful palace in Jannat, and he wants to know. He said, the Malaika say, this is a palace of a Qurayshi. He's about to enter it. They say, no, oh Nabi of Allah, this is the palace of Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar, when you go to the qabr, there'll be questions in the grave. Who's your Rabb? What is your deen? Who's your Nabi? Nabi of Allah is saying, Umar, when you go to the grave, when the angels ask you, you'll ask them that Allah is my Rabb. Who's your Rabb? That Umar, my beloved brothers, when he's leaving this world, when his head is put on the lap of his son, he says to his son, oh my son, take my head out of your lap and put this head of Umar on the floor, because I don't know how Umar will fare in front of Allah Ta'ala on the day of Qiyamah. That Umar was given the glad tidings of Jannat, but such an Iman in the heart, that the worry and concern, Ya Allah, what will happen to me on the day of Qiyamah? How will I stand in front of you on the day of Qiyamah? This is called Iman, brothers. The best person in this ummah was Sayyidina Abu Bakr. The Nabi of Allah is saying, when Allahu Akbar, there will be 8 doors of Jannat, and people will be called going through different doors of Jannat. The first one from my ummah will be called to Jannat will say, Na Abu Bakr, and all 8 doors of Jannat will be wanting that Abu Bakr comes through our door. Nabi alayhi salam said, whoever has helped me in this effort of deen, I've recompensed them. But Ya Abu Bakr, something like this, more or less, your recompense will be with Allah on the day of Qiyamah. That Abu Bakr, what he's saying, I wish I were a tree, I wish I were a blade of grass. This is Iman, brothers. When a man will make effort for Iman and his condition of his inside, he'll become worried. He'll become restless. This work which Allah has given us is not a Tablighi Jamaat. It's not a group. It's not an organization. It's not some party. Everyone who has said La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, it is incumbent on me to make so much effort on my Iman that I can obey every command of Allah and save myself from every disobedience of Allah Ta'ala. It is my responsibility, my brothers. So my beloved brothers, wallah, when we make effort of Iman, Allah will purify our hearts from all this dirty, incorrect belief in our heart. Never before in the world, Allahu Akbar, never before in the world were there so many hospitals and doctors and clinics and physicians. But let's ask ourselves, never before in the world were there so many diseases. Never before in the world were there so many security companies and police and armies. Never in the world was there so much insecurity like now. In our country, the police station has to hire security guards to guard the police station. So who's a protector, brothers? If our heart is in some man-made thing, my heart is in that alarm, my heart is in some creation, it is the way of Allah that whatever conviction is in the heart, Allah will hand us over to that creation. This is the sunnah of Allah. It will never change. Whatever yaqeen is in our heart, if my yaqeen and my conviction is in that passport, or that country, or that currency, or that government, or that home, or that shop, or that property, Allah by His Qudrat will make us the slave of that. That is a slavery, brothers. And the man who who got the greatness of Allah in his heart, Allah will make him the slave of Allah. And when a man becomes a slave of Allah, the whole creation will become the slave of that man. That is what was in the life of Sahaba. The whole creation was subservient to them. The wind and the stars and the moon and the oceans and the water. That is why when the volcano was erupting in Medina Munawwara, Tamim Darullah Umar says to him, go and take the lava back into the volcano. He said, no, I can't do it. He said, no, you can do it. were reading a few kalimat, and by the sign of his hand, he put the lava back into the volcano. Huh? In the time of Amr bin As radiallahu anhu in Egypt, there was a custom amongst those people. They had to sacrifice a virgin girl and throw in the river Nile for the water to flow. So Amr bin As is the Amir now, he's the governor. He writes to Umar and saying, now Umar, these people are want to do this, and this is not our way and custom. Umar writes a letter, and he says to Amr bin As that you take this letter and throw it into the river. And what does he write in that letter? Something like this, that if you flow on your own accord, we don't need you. But if you flow by the command of Allah, we command you to flow. And after throwing the letter in the river flows. So the whole, Allahu Akbar, the whole system of the universe was under the control of Sahaba when their hearts were linked directly to Allah. And when their life was on the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They could lose their wives and their children, and they could lose their homes. They could leave the house of Allah in Mecca, but they could not see the displeasure of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every step of their life was in accordance with the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If the Umar is traveling and he comes to a certain place and he stops to relieve himself, but he had no need to relieve himself, then he says to his companions, I had no need to relieve myself, but because my Nabi of Allah, when I travel with him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we traveled on this road, he stopped here to relieve himself, I'm also relieving myself. So this was the love for Rasulullah. In the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when Kuffar Makkah came to negotiate, one of the Kuffar, I'm not mistaken, was Suhail. When he tried to touch the beard of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, the nephew of Suhail took his sword and struck his hand and said, you dare touch the beard of Rasulullah. You dare touch the beard of my Nabi. Brothers, today I ask myself, when the whole life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is destroyed in my life and nothing is felt in my heart. So brothers, how far am I gone from the deen? When Sahaba couldn't see the beard of Nabi be touched by a kuffar, today in our own life we have left that beautiful way of life. So my brothers, we have Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah, we in the masjid, the brothers who are sitting here are special, because in the sea of darkness of millions of people who don't know Allah, who believing in correcting in Allah, Allah has brought me and you to His house and allowed us to stay behind to listen to the talks of Allah. But my beloved brothers, is not a talk. It is to understand my responsibility. That, Ya Allah, I have been brought to this country. For what have I come here? Why has Allah brought me here? What is my purpose for coming here? What is my responsibility for being here? To save myself and my wife and my children and my community and all these beautiful people, to take them to the door of Allah Ta'ala. My brothers, Allah is the Rabb of everybody. All the creation are the family of Allah. Who feeds them? Allah feeds them. Who looks up? Who puts them? Allah gives food to us. Allah gives food to them. Allah feeds everybody. Allah feeds. Allah doesn't want to be fed. Allah gives. Allah doesn't take. So my brothers, this kind Allah, loving Allah, Allahu Akbar, how much Allah loves us. They say in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some prisoners were brought to Medina Munawwara. Amongst them was a lady. She had a small baby, and the baby got lost. We know the love of a mother for a child, running frantically, looking for the child. Eventually she finds the child, she hugs the child. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, who was the best teacher, he asked the companions, do you think this lady will throw this child in the fire? Do you think that this lady will ever throw this child in the fire? They said, oh Nabi of Allah, how can this lady ever throw this child in the fire? He said something like this, more than that, Allah doesn't want to send His slaves to the fire. Imagine, a man is the biggest sinner. He is the biggest drunkard. He is the biggest thief. But Allah is saying that you dare gossip about him, I will punish you. Allah wants to cover we doing the wrong, but Allah wants to cover our faults. That Allah is warning us that don't speak about him. Don't gossip about him. How much Allah loves us. Ibrahim alayhi salam never ate alone. Once he brought somebody to eat with him, and he told that person, say Bismillah, eat in the name of Allah. So that person was a fire worshipper. He said, how can I take the name of Allah? So Ibrahim alayhi salam became angry. He told him, you go from here. So Allah revealed to him that, oh Ibrahim, 70 years he didn't take my name. How many years? For 70 years he didn't take my name. I fed him. Today for one time he didn't take my name and you chased him away. So Ibrahim alayhi salam went back to call him. So he said, I don't understand. First you chased me away, now you're calling me to eat. He says, Allah says, for 70 years you didn't take his name and he still fed you. The person said, Ashhadu Allah. So my brothers, that Allah, we don't think of this, brothers. A man goes for Hajj, he brings me a 2 riyal topi. Till Qiyamah I'm talking about him. Hey, what a beautiful brother, man. You know, he brought me a topi from Makkah. That Allah, brothers, who brought us from non-existence, who's feeding us, He's feeding us. That job is not feeding us. That food is not from the shop. That food is from Allah, brothers. Who makes it come out of the earth? Who sends the water from the sky? Who makes the sun and moon come? It is Allah who does it. So my brothers, we have to, Allah Akbar, through this Mubarak effort, is to break away from those things which have taken our heart and mind away from Allah. This job and shop, we are not saying a man shouldn't work and a man shouldn't earn. No, this is Allah Akbar, it is a man, the Nabi of Allah took the hand of a laborer and he kissed it because he said, this is the hand that works hard to earn halal and feed his family. But my beloved brothers, those are the needs of life, to earn and to eat and to have a wife and children. Everybody is doing it. We have been given a big responsibility, a responsibility of deen, brothers, to get the complete deen in my life and to make such an effort that mankind gets deen in their life. You see, my beloved brothers, mashallah, Allah reward the brothers who bring the water to the masjid. There's always water in the masjid, mashallah. Now imagine this is the only water available in Houston and all the people outside are dying with thirst. Now if we don't give them that water to drink and they dine outside the masjid, who's the oppressor, brothers? Aren't we oppressors? Will Allah accept the dua of an oppressor? Allah won't accept the dua of the oppressor. Allah's help is with the one who's oppressed. Now my beloved brothers, imagine worse than that, we're not giving them the water and we ourselves are not drinking the water. Can there be somebody more foolish than that? So my brothers, we got this water of Iman and Islam and Deen and success. Imagine if those people are deprived because of us. Like what they say, we've heard so much about Islam, we've read so much of Islam, we want to see where is this Islam. We want to see that Muslims. Sahaba went to China and Indonesia, there was no need to talk to the people. There was no need to give them a long talk. They just saw the conduct of Sahaba, the way they traded. Because why in those hearts of Sahaba was the desire for the hidayat of those people. A man who sells buttons, wherever he goes, what does he look at? He looks at a button. You go to the funeral, what is looking? Hey, does he got a lovely button? He'll even say, brother, can I take a photo of that button, man? I need to send it to China to bake one like that. Why? Because in his heart is buttons. He goes to the funeral, what is looking at? He's looking at the buttons. Hey, this brother says, nice button, I can do a good export from here to Canada with this button. Because what was in the heart of Rasulullah? In the heart of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was a pain and a cry that one person will go to Jannat. The people who were spitting on him and throwing stones on him and abusing him, he was standing in the darkness of night and crying in front of Allah. Oh Allah, guide my people, they don't understand. My beloved brothers, this great lesson we have forgotten. That we have been sent and chosen for our hidayat. There's nothing. Wallah, a man doesn't have food. He died. When he dies, the hunger is gone. A man doesn't have water. He is thirsty. He dies. When he dies, the thirst is gone. A man doesn't have clothes. He's naked. He's cold. When he dies, the cold is gone. But wallah, my brothers, a man dies and he dies without recognizing Allah. And he dies without La ilaha illallah. Where is he going, brothers? The problems are only starting. So my beloved brothers, the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had this worry and concern that, Ya Allah, how my ummah can be saved from Jahannam? How mankind can be saved? Imagine after Fateh Makkah, Allah, after 20 some odd years of sacrifice, leaving their homes and leaving their families and leaving their children and leaving everything they had, walking away. Imagine walking away for your things, and more than wife and more than children and more than your money, walking away from the house of Allah. Walking away from Baytullah. The Nabi of Allah is leaving and saying something like this, more or less, oh Makkah, how beloved you are to me. If it was not for my people, I would not have left you. Imagine leaving that, my friend, and then going to Medina Munawwara. And then in Medina Munawwara, sickness and fever and hunger and difficulty. But Sahaba stood by him, not shifting an inch. The Ansar of Medina, when they came to take the Nabi of Allah from Mina, the uncle of Nabi al-Islam, who wasn't a Muslim at that time, he said, oh Ansar, do you know what you're doing? You know who you're taking? You're taking my nephew with you. And you know if you take him, what will happen to you? The whole of the Arab nation will become your enemy. You lose your things, you'll have to fight and you have to sacrifice. And he said, oh Nabi Allah, what you promise us is we promise you Jannat. They said to Abbas, we are ready to take it. When they left to fight, when they left for Badr, Ansar were not ready to fight. They didn't go to fight. Now when they got there, the Nabi of Allah is consulting them, what should we do now? Quraysh Makkah are coming, should we fight, shouldn't we fight, what we should do? So now Muhajirin kept on answering. But the Nabi of Allah kept on asking. Because Ansar promised to protect him in Medina Munawwara. Now they were not in Medina Munawwara. So the Nabi of Allah is waiting for Ansar to say what they want. And then I think it was Sa'd bin Mu'adh, one of the leaders of Ansar, stood up. And he said, oh Nabi of Allah, it seems as if you want an answer from Ansar. Oh Nabi of Allah, listen carefully. When we took you from Mina, we said we will protect you in Medina. But now after living with you, if you ask us to jump from the highest mountain, we'll do that. If you ask us to jump in the deepest of seas, we'll do that. Oh Nabi of Allah, whatever you want from us, we are ready to do it. Then the help of Allah came and that small group of Sahaba, overpowering the Quraysh. When Sahaba were ready with whatever help, wealth and time, Allah, Sahaba used to say, oh Nabi of Allah, what you take from us is more beloved than what you leave for us. Aisha Radhiyallahu anha said, I never knew a person could cry out of joy till the day when the Nabi of Allah came to our house at the odd hour of the day, and he said, oh Abu Bakr, get ready, you have to accompany you on a journey of Hijrah. He said, my father started crying out of joy, taking everything from that house with a blind father and only daughters, taking whatever there was for the deen of Allah and for the establishing of the deen of Allah. So my brothers, we are special ummah, we special people, we got a great responsibility. Just asking of the brothers, if brother go for 4 months, go for 40 days, it's not some scheme or some ploy to trap people. Wallah my brothers, this is that work that will take us out of slavery of all these things and make us the slaves of Allah. That Sahabi went to the court of the king and they asked him, why have you come? He said, I have not come. I have been sent by Allah. Sent for what? Sent to take you out of slavery of man and put you into slavery of one Allah. My beloved brothers, this beautiful work will make our dunya, wallah, this beautiful deen Allah gave us, the ease of our dunya. Listen brothers, the ease of our dunya is in deen. The ease of our dunya is not in getting another job, or getting a better post, or getting a higher salary, or going to another country. The ease of our dunya is in deen. This masjid doesn't run on the money that's coming. It is that shop that is running on the barakat of the people making sujood in the house of Allah. It is the amal of deen which is protected. Allah, what they say, a man who goes out to learn the knowledge of deen, the birds in the sky, the fish in the ocean make dua for those people. A man who's striving in the path of Allah, the animals and the creation make dua. Why they making dua? Because when a Muslim makes an effort for good to come alive and good actions come in the world, all the creation benefit. The rain will come at its time, the food will come at its time, love will be created between enemies. The Nabi of Allah is saying Quran Kareem, though before Dawat, what was the era before Dawat? Ayyam Jahiliyyah. And after Dawat, Khairul Qurun, the best of times. What was life before Dawat? Killing each other for small things. And after Dawat, ready to die for each other. What before Dawat, the slaves of that time didn't want to rule over Sahaba. The slaves, not the rulers. The slaves said, we don't want to rule over these people. And after the effort of Dawat, Allah made them the rulers of the whole world. Bilal Ilanu, he comes to Nabi of Allah at the time of Sehri. Oh Nabi of Allah, the time of Sehri is finished. Bilal is still eating. He comes second time, third time. The third time when he came, he said, oh Nabi of Allah, I take a qasam by the name of Allah, the time of suhoor is finished and you eating. Then Nabi Sallam stopped eating. He said, oh Bilal, something like this. The time of suhoor wasn't finished. The time of suhoor wasn't finished. But because you took a qasam in the name of Allah, Allah brought the time of sehri to an end. Oh Sayyidina Bilal, I hear your footsteps in Jannat. What amal you doing that I'm hearing your footsteps in Jannat? My beloved brothers, Sahaba were like me and you. They were human beings. They had wives, children, jobs, shops, occupations. They also had a heart of feelings. But they made such a life and such an effort as Allah showed them the honor in this world. A Sahabi is in a battle. He says, I can smell the fragrance of Jannat coming from Mount Uhud. The Sahabi goes to the battle without ghusl. Malaika come from the sky to give ghusl to his body. Malaika coming from the sky to read the salat of janazah on Sahaba. My brothers, that is honor, that is respect. That is why after 1400 years, I'll name my son Bilal and Abu Bakr and Umar and Hudayfa and Mu'adh. In whose love? In the love of those people who understood why they were sent in this world. Why Allah gave us health, wealth and time. My beloved brothers, today a man thinks, what we all say, my life, my time, my money, just do it. Just that mentality, just do it. Brothers, each Muslim, they say a person needed some financial assistance. They said, Nabi of Allah said, go to Sayyidina Uthman, he will help you. So when a person came outside the door, he heard Sayyidina Uthman shouting his wife. Shouting her for what? She was using too much oil in the lamp because the flame was too high. So he thought to himself, a person who's worried about so much of oil for his wife, what is going to give me? So he went back. He said, did you get help? He said, no. He said, no, go back to him. When he went back, Sayyidina Uthman gave him much more than he wanted. Then he said, Ya Uthman, I don't understand. For your wife, you crying for so much of oil, and for me, you giving. He said, because on the day of Qiyamah, we will be accountable to Allah Ta'ala for every moment of our life, every dollar, every rand, every money. Brothers, we're not free people. That is why the hadith, this place there's a prison for a believer. Our place is Akhirat, brothers. In Fadail Sadaqat, as the Shaykh writes, in Jannat, in the low Jannat, there's a palace. Just think, we hear it, brothers, but we don't think. Close our eyes and think. One palace. In that palace, there's 70,000 apartments. 70,000 apartments in one palace. Every apartment has 70,000 rooms. How big the palace must be to have 70,000 apartments, and how big the apartment must be to have 70,000 doors. And every apartment has 70,000 rooms. Every apartment has 70,000 rooms, and in every room there's 70,000 doors. We can't imagine, brothers. You take a small child, you put $1 million diamond here, and you put a 1 cent sweet here. What the child is going to take? The child doesn't understand. Wallah, my brothers, today we are immature in the matters of akhirat. That is why Allah is saying Sahaba were the real men. A Sahabi is lying on the lap of his wife and he's crying. So the wife said, she also started crying. So ask her, why are you crying? She said, I'm crying because you're crying. He said, I'm crying because I'm thinking of the day of Qiyamah, how I'm going to cross the bridge of Sirat. Sahaba on the lap of the wife, they're thinking of Qiyamah. And I'm in sajda, I'm thinking of my wife. The amount Sahaba thought of Allah in the bazaar, we don't think of Allah in the masjid. When Sahaba went in the path of Allah, they went happily. That we are happy now, Allah will accept our life. If they came back from the path of Allah alive, they was crying in Fazaila's Amal. When one occasion the Sahaba didn't have enough to go in the path of Allah, they went home with tears flowing from their eyes because they did not have to go in the path of Allah. So my brothers, what has happened? This Mubarak work is to change the course of our life and our wives and our children and the cause of humanity, that mankind goes towards success, my beloved brothers. So for this, brothers, we are requesting, wallah, my beloved brothers, those of us who haven't been for 4 months, what is 4 months? To come in an environment of the masjid where the talks of Iman and Amal will take place. So my beloved brothers, we make intention, inshallah. Myself, firstly, I'm most in need. Whatever I'm speaking about is not in my life. If it was in my life, there was no need for me to come from South Africa here and leave my wife and children and my job and everything, because I need this. More harmful than any disease in the world is this incorrect belief in our heart that things are happening through the creation. To correct this Iman of mine, before I go to my grave, where the first question will be, who's your Rabb? And there, brothers, the tongue won't speak. It is the conviction in the heart that will speak. So for those who makes intention, give our names, brothers. Stand up, give our names. That inshallah, first opportunity, I have to go and correct my Iman.